Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode. Today's episode is an important one. It's titled, What is the Great Work of the Species? There we go. Okay, so there was an idea that I was thinking about. For a while I've been thinking, what is the best thing that the human being can do while alive, and it is to set something into motion. That's what I've come up with so far. That our intelligence here is in some sense has an expressive value for the future of the species. I was thinking also for myself, like I've been giving these talks for a while, and I was thinking in case if something happens, it's important to create a backup system. Now, if you were to think that 8 billion human beings, or every human being that was born, they led to a sort of backup system. That means every human being was creating a backup system for civilization to the degree they could perceive or whatnot. Whether it's an individual project or a global project, I feel endlessly making backup systems is the key. There's this story I remember hearing when I was young. It was the story of this grasshopper and these ants. And this grasshopper is just chilling, during the summertime. But the ants are working. The ants are, I don't know, storing food, whatever they're doing. The ants are working, and the grasshopper comes to the ant and is like, "Yo, ant, what are you doing? It's summer. You shouldn't be working." And the ant responds to the grasshopper, "No, I see ahead." The ant tells the grasshopper it should be working. The grasshopper tells the ant it shouldn't be working. Now what happens is winter time approaches and the grasshopper has nowhere to go. Has not prepared for winter, has not prepared for not just the future of himself, but the future of the world himself is going to be in. So the ants were creating a backup system, the grasshopper was not. That's the point of the story. I feel if 8 billion human beings, if we were in a world where there were endless, proper, efficient backup systems, it would be where any mistake that would take place, right? Or it would be a world without blind spots, or even if a person made a mistake or something messed up happened in human civilization, it would fall down towards the backup systems, right? So my view was, if we make more backup systems, then the backup systems are failing, we win as a species. Now, what are these backup systems for now? The backup systems for now are, I would say, ideological. The human being needs a story. So the story you have, how many times have we seen characters in like movies and shows where the character is like at the end, at the brink of its breaking point, and it doesn't know what to do. Then it remembers its family, loved ones, friends, whoever the protagonist is fighting for. And then suddenly that becomes a backup system. The love that the character, the warrior in the show, for example, in some of these shows have the warrior has a love for the world. It's like, no, I'm not gonna let aliens take over my town or something, like. So I would say love, for example, that's a giant backup system. Even I would say many parents would agree. If there wasn't love, there is no backup system of holding your own rage. That means if a person doesn't love themselves, they won't even have a backup system when it comes to hurting themselves, right? And this is something they don't say, but people have to train in loving themselves. It's such a strange idea that you got to train to love yourself. But when I say train, that means you got to see the right value. That means it's like Albert Einstein says something, I don't remember the exact quote, but it was something like, if you judge a fish by its ability to fly, the fish is going to go on its whole life thinking it's stupid. But I do want to say that this episode, it is really important. I don't know how else to say it rather than directly, because I'm going to try to share my whole intent with these talks as far as I can see it now. Again, in case if something happens to me, this episode will kind of suggest for those who care for the work to continue. So the idea is we want to create endless backup systems for human beings, and these backup systems for now are ideological. So if the communication of the species advances, if the insight and skill of the species advances, these backup systems that are ideological, not only they will actualize, they will work more integratively, they will work better. So we can say that if the human being, it's like in every moment, this is at least in Mr.Within school of thought, where I say in front of your eyes, you see things as objects, you see objects. Behind your eyes, which is your mind's room, the person sees subjects where your memories live, where your imagination is, all of this. When it comes to the creative force behind being an intelligent being, in front of our eyes, we can build external backup systems, or we can communicate internal backup systems. So pretty much we can create objects and we can create subjects, and then we can place them in the history of the world as it's going forth in a certain way, where they will pretty much back up the future in their struggles. That means if we just make great one, even I wouldn't say one, but if we can just make a number of great backup systems, the species wouldn't falter. Like we would bypass extinction. Extinction can be defined the moment where the species couldn't change can't change its circumstances anymore. continue. So external backup systems, internal backup systems, endless backup systems is the strategy. These backup systems have to care for more than what they are in order to be backup what the future could be. That means human beings should not just prepare for what they are. It's as if like it's like 3 dimensions of, you can say, multidimensional management of attention, where the attention is looking at what the past implies about the future, what the present implies about the future, and what the future implies about the future. What the future implies about the future, it is 100% unknown. What the present implies about the future, it is semi-known, semi-unknown. You know, and what the past says about the future is also semi-known and semi-unknown, but the past has enough content to shape it. That means with our past, we can see potential futures, even though the future is going to be different. You know, the way I think about it is we're 8 billion human beings. Imagine you just had 8 billion characters, okay, on a planet. And these characters, before they could leave the game of human life, they could create a global backup system. Now, because every person sees a different view of the world, even though we're in the same world, we don't access it the same way. So it means if each person had the ability, let's say an advanced civilization gave every person the resources to develop a global backup system. Imagine in the future the advanced civilization is just like, all right, human beings, just develop a global backup system, and you will have in your bank account, and it's gonna say infinity. Because I consider there to be no greater contribution than the backup system. It's like, what are we living for then? It's like, why are we planting seeds for trees that we're not going to be sitting under their shade? Like, this is all our strategy. So if 8 billion people attempted global backup systems, let's say a giant, even if 50% of those backup systems, global backup systems, fail, we have still, like, for example, 4 billion potential workable backup systems. The idea is, like, we got to use what the internet is doing for us, for the future generations, but more in the sense of the outer realms and the inner realms in regards to how do we care for the future psychology, like how are human beings going to wake up on this planet, and in what kind of planet they're going to wake up. Really, these are the two big points. So an immediate response to the title of this episode is that the great work of the species is try to make at least more than half the try to just make everybody make a global backup system. And the overflow of backup systems is going to help us. I mean, I know I'm re-emphasizing, but anyways. Now, let's say people make backup systems. That's great, you know. Now I can move on. 2 points The first point being, I was thinking about also how it could be that human existence on the planet is happening in waves. That means imagine just like solar flares are hitting our planet, you know, or any sort of wave that is invisible to the biological human eye. There could be a possibility that human consciousness is an interdimensional interference, wave interference. Uh, it could be that the first wave of human beings that ever existed, they reached an advanced civilization and they reached a point where they were like, what do we do in the temporary? And so I can't fathom a human civilization that mastered time and managed to create in time a space of endless time. What that means is, let's say a human being lives 100 years. Now imagine in the future with cyberspace technology, for example, we stretch that 100 years into 100,000 years. What do I mean by this? That means for 100 years, the human biological body is in like some pod, some liquid pod that's preserving the biology. And it's like a swimming pool, like a pod swimming pool, where the body, if there's any sort of psychological movement in cyberspace, and if the body in the outer realms moves actually, that body won't hit anything, right? So it would be as if 100 years of life through cyberspace. That means the human being never knows they're actually alive for 100 years in real life. But to them, it, for example, 100 years, even I'll make it more extreme, is 100,000 lifetimes, right? So imagine you could somehow, through advanced cyberspace technology, experience 100,000 lives in 100 years of time, right? So I'm feeling, for example, could it be that the first wave of human beings that reached an advancement, that cared enough for their own continuity, they were like, okay, if the universe is empty, at least we'll keep an infinite illusion in it. That means it could be that the first wave of human beings sacrificed the truth so we would live easier, live more in a more easier way in the void. So it could be that we are right now a simulation of an ultimate original human species that is asleep to itself. For example, this was a thought that I felt it fits into sharing in this episode. So what I'm trying to say is, in that example, we are the dream of the original humanity. So the original sleeping humanity, imagine the proper human civilization. Then this human civilization used the technology to echo endless parallel human civilizations. It just makes sense, guys. I mean, think about it. We're in a world, right? We have bodies, we have minds. When we look at robotics, we have created robots that represent our body. You know, a company I'm very fond of, hopefully one day I'll have the privilege to go and see in person, is Boston Dynamics. I think Boston Robotics, something like that. And this company is so phenomenal that they have managed to create robots that replicate animal movement. So we, on a robotic level, we were bodies, we had bodies, we tried to create bodies. Now, cyberspace, in regards to the illusion I'm telling you, is as if we have minds, we tried to create a digital mind. Now, the next phase of that is we have a unknown endless world. Now it's as if, imagine, after we've made the digital representation of the body, the digital equivalent of the body, the digital equivalent of the mind. Now the only thing that's left to make the digital equivalent of an actual unknown world. So it could be that the world we're in is actually the greatest invention of a world we can never be in, as long as we're this. You know, it's as if people give birth to people, right? So people come from people, and it could be that dimensions come out of dimensions. This may be a strange idea, but worlds emerging. Like we have this view that if there is, for example, the masculine archetype and the feminine archetype, right? And we're like masculine, feminine. But if we were to amplify that more than just the human framework, which our individual existence is the earth, literally, where everybody's the periodic table right now partying. So it would be a suggestion where imagine the world had a masculine side, you know, and the world had a feminine side. Now, this only makes sense because there has to be a receiver, so the receiver is the identity, it holds the identity. Anyways, I was just trying to think as if how hilarious would it be if worlds are reproducing worlds. We're such a productive oriented creature. I mean, what else can we do? We can either move stuff or we can reconnect stuff to create something new. That's what an invention is, you know. Even though a person may feel an invention is a new thing, but all the things used to make that new invention are not new. Their form, their placement is new. The way they've been put together. So you can look at a bunch of meaningless things, put them together. Oh my God, did I just create meaning? Yeah. So that was the point of just simulation. The simulation psychology begins wondering how much it's simulating itself, its meaning, how much its meaning is coming from a position that's not simulating, right? Because honestly, if we wanted to be serious with, for example, what the Abrahamic traditions are saying, we are in a simulation of the will of the inconceivable. That's what the religious narrative, the religious lens, all those people on the planet who are religious, that's what it really means. We are in the simulation of an inconceivable will. Now, the hilarious thing is, if it's a simulation, then it's like we're never here. That means all the human beings afraid to go to hell, all those human beings who think they're going to go to heaven, it's as if they didn't read the holy books properly. Because in the holy books, it's impossible to go to heaven and hell because there is no you. That means it's as if it's. I remember asking this. I was born in Iran, and Iran, it's like a country where church and state have not separated, or I should say, mosque and state have not separated. So religion is not just in the culture, in the cultural program, but it's in the laws of the nation. So it's something that a person living in that country has to know very early on. I remember hearing this idea of that every God has imbued a soul, like has put its own breath into its creation, its clay creation through the Abrahamic lens. So that's a suggestion that it's. I remember asking this. I went to this. I don't know if the person was a scholar, like it was someone at a mosque, I believe. I went and asked them in regards to the soul. What does, for example, the Islamic text say about the soul? Like what has been said about it, right? And there's 2 points. One, it's that it's as if the soul is God. And in another view, the soul is the secret of God. That means it's as if we are man. See, it was as if it's very strange. In religious narratives, they do speak about mind, for example. Like this is something remarkable where I would say in some holy passages or these ancient books, certain passages, for example, one passage says only God knows what's in your heart. Another passage says God has given you your intelligence so it is used. Another passage says God has created everything here for you, right? And then another passage says God is all merciful, but then another passage says that God couldn't forgive man when he touched the forbidden fruit. So it's like after man fell, God became forgiving, you see, merciful. This is not to reduce the idea in any way, because ideas cannot be reduced, because ideas are animated from within the person. That means when a person reads the book doesn't have a brain. Their brain animates the words that have meaning in it. So these were certain mysteries in the Abrahamic lens, and I remember asking that in the sense that the soul is the mystery of God. This explains blasphemy. That's the biggest reason why people were like, "Hey man, I experienced something multidimensional," and like, I don't know, the religious cleric was like, "What did you say?" And so it was like as if it's like language had a strictness. You know what it is? It was as if language was wilder back in the day for the human psyche, and the more language expanded, the more playful we have become with the language that defined the strictness, the boundaries of our world. So pretty much from at least certain religious angles, the soul is the mystery of the ultimate mover of the universe, right? So technically everything is like the will, through the Abrahamic lens, everything is the will of the divine, right? So we are divinity. So when a person's thinking, am I going to heaven or hell, is God sending itself to heaven and hell? You see what I mean? The complexity becomes to a point where do we define the boundaries? Because it's so strange. The religious narrative, if there was no political power, do you know it could be nullified? Literally, religious people deciding upon what the religion can mean can totally decide on different things. The religious authorities, I mean, for example, theologians, clerics, they decide on generally as a group how they're interpreting something where they weren't none of them were alive at the time. Do you see? It's like that's the challenge. It's same thing with Socrates, Plato, these ancient Greek philosophers, that they're really left to the human mind to some degree. Look at the remnants of their work or the very little that was written about them, and then to communicate, right? If we really want to have a filter of precision of being like, what is fiction, what is non-fiction, we can nullify anything. A person can come up to another person and says, I don't see the ideal you have of yourself. That's fiction. Your sense of self doesn't exist to me. I can't touch it. I can't see it. Do you know? So you see, it's as if we can use the judgment of fiction, non-fiction, like the Crusades, like the Inquisition, like the modern atheistic movement, which is strange. Right? For me, I thought the atheistic mind disliked the religious Inquisition, but it's behaving exactly like it. That means it's as if it didn't take the higher road. The higher road was that the secular and atheistic society should forgive the religious and recalibrate, right? Recalibrate in regards to the decency of modern ethics, modern human ethical behavior, right? That means it's as if everything in this world, you can say, appears as a story. Right now, what I'm saying that the audience is hearing is a story. Everything is contained through stories to us. Now, if the story doesn't correlate to the outer realms, that means, let's say we had a time machine, we went back and, you know what it is? It's like this. It's as if a person, their whole life, they have been a farmer, then like, let's say, I don't know, like a trillionaire CEO comes up and gives them everything or something. Do you know, that person, it's as if they have not worked for the ability to hold that energy. It's been literally like 2 weeks where I've been thinking to myself, how do I look at the idea of mana, the idea of the primal energy that can be used? And of course this originates from more of a fictional globe, but the idea is, I came to the conclusion that energy is being used. It doesn't matter how it's being used. The usage of energy is magical. That means if I open a door, that's magic right there. You know what I mean? It may not be like the magic we see in the movie theaters, like Gandalf, you shall not pass, shadow and flame or whatever you are, like, so it's not that level, but it is something. It is energy usage. Even right now, me speaking, I am technically like bending air. It doesn't get more airbender than this. And we could give the element of speech the air element. That means it's the wind attribute. We can give those who are way more physical in regards to their energies intensify the speed. So let's say physical movement is the fire attribute. So an athlete has the fire attribute stronger, for example. Let's say someone who has great observance, or how would I say this? I'm trying to see that it's like the 5 elements can totally refit the modern paradigm to evoke some new narrative or ethos of honor in civilization. When we realize our life is a classification of symbolism, it's hilarious how easily it can be realigned. In my inner realms, life can change so easily, it's ridiculous. In the outer realms, oh my God, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, then you gotta go do this, and you gotta go talk to that person, and then that person's gonna tell you to go talk to that other person, and then something happens. But in the inner realms, ding, it's like as if you're already there. I can't tell you how many advanced civilizations I have visited in my inner realms, how many ways I have wondered about human activity that can move. Right? Ultimately, it comes down to something never seen before. That's the best thing. That means our future is a surprise, right? Now, if we give to the future, we're gonna surprise them. If we take from the future, we're just gonna be surprised, and they're gonna be like, whoa, why is everything like messed up here? Because it's very strange. I don't know how a person can even choose to have children in a world that is inefficient, right? So it's like there has to be a greater urge even before wanting children in the world to have the proper world where the children are going to enter, the children of the future generation. Excuse me. So the second point I wanted to talk about was my own, and then I'll finally revert to a global strategy. So in regards to these Mr. Within talks, just to say it very easily, in 2014 I had the idea to just give 10,000 talks and to see if it's possible. The name Mr. Within, before I used it for the channel, it came for, I was using the name and on SoundCloud I was sharing music under this channel's name, Mr. Within's Dream. I don't know what it, like, I don't know, at the time it was cool to me that but then it evolved, and I remember I was listening to like next, like, I don't know, like I have 11,000 songs I've liked from underground ambient artists, electronic artists, but during that time I did a lot of writing, so my whole effort is I'm like a human being experiencing something, and I'm trying to share all of it. So in regards to the backup system I can create, is that I don't know if I'm going to be around. I feel I'm going to be. I feel I'm going to manage to get the 10,000 done, because in my inner realms I'm fathoming to try to finish 20,000. If I try to finish 20,000, then it's going to be close. So with the speed of 20,000, I'm trying to do 10,000 before I exit. So that's the idea. Now, in case if something happens, I was thinking in case if something happens, I have literally throughout the years have notebooks filled with titles of talks, right? So as a backup system, these I'm going to share all of these online. That means before my like transition out of here, I'm going to share all the titles, and if I can't finish it, at least the species may attempt to finish what was once an idea. So that's a backup system I'm creating. So worst case scenario, the 10,000 talks will have titles. So it would be as if I would finish a sort of potential title. So it would be as if I finished 10,000 names of episodes, but I didn't finish giving the 10,000 talks. Right, so the names of those talks are all listed in notebooks, and I will share them at some point. Aside from that, I have been a bit strangely, I don't know, intuitively not that drawn to it, but I have written a lot, a ridiculous amount. Aside from poetic writing, it was as if my training, my intuitive training before I gave these talks was writing. Like I can't tell you how many years every day I've had a pen in my hand. It's ridiculous, like when I think. But so there is all that content in the books, and the inspiration of the content, I think this is at the heart of anybody who does anything expression wise, is that they want the natural thing to be communicated, right? So any sort of obsession with anything brings it out of its nature. Right, you could be around the most natural thing, most beautiful natural place or moment, but the moment you zoom in on one thing and become obsessive about a certain outcome, the whole nature of the thing, I don't want to say it becomes tainted, but it goes off harmony, right? Because if the person doesn't have decency, you cannot lead to decency. It's just common sense. You know, it's like if you don't have the energy to start with, how are you going to have it to end? You know? And people who care for the endings, they want the ending to be perfect. It all depends on how perfect the beginning was. How you open to the moment. The main difference between presence and personality. So there's going to be that. Worst case scenario, if I can't even write down 10,000 titles, in the names of the poems I've written can act as titles, you know. So I think so far up to date, I've written, it's an average 30 times 30. 900 poems. Way a bit more than 900 poems. Yeah. But anyways, there is that, so I'm just letting the audience know what I've done in case this is a backup system. The whole episode is about backup systems, so I'm just trying to say everything. So there is the talks. Then there is the books, which aside from the poetry, so what happened is I had a very unique dream, and I'll say these, I don't know, I don't have kids, but in the future, if I do, like, they may hear this. So I believe it was 2013. I had a dream. Where it was one of the most strangest moments of my life. It was not a normal dream, and it was not a normal moment. That means there was something totally off. And what it was that I remember in the dream finding myself in a sleep paralysis in my bed early in the morning. I don't know what it was, like 6 a.m., maybe earlier than that. Very early in the morning, I find myself in my bed in a sleep paralysis, where sleep paralysis can have also a chemical explanation, that your body produces something so that when you dream, your body doesn't move in the bed. But this was different. This was full awaking. That means I was conscious. It was as if my mind had woken up earlier than my body. My body was still asleep, my mind was awake. It was kind of like a dream. I remember I hear a word. The word is Lida, and it's one of the big mysteries of my life, which throughout the years I've uncovered certain things about it. But Da, I knew the exact spelling. So imagine in that sleep paralysis dream state, I know the exact spelling of this word, and I hear the word Lida, L-I space D-A-H. Okay? So I hear this word in the sleep paralysis. I say the word. My attention in an instant lifts up into through the ceiling, and in an instant comes back, and in what I would say was like a nanosecond, but there was time in that nanosecond, I experienced two images. I saw a giant stone wall in space with an inverted triangular cave, giant inverted triangular cave, and this incredible sense of restriction, but not unauthorization. I felt I was behind that whole giant triangular, inverted triangular cave in space. That feeling was, it felt as if I was it felt as if I knew what was inside, but not in the format I was seeing. So there was that glimpse of a giant inverted triangular cave, pitch black inside the cave in space. And then there was an image, a specific image of just this creature on some sort of chair. And I remember a glimpse like the image is vivid in my inner realms. In that instant where I say the word, I go through a sleep, I go through this instant projection up the ceiling, and I instantly come down. On my way of coming down, I'll never forget it, the ceiling was cubic, and it was waving as if you dropped a drop of water in a still pond. So it was waving, but it was cubic. I don't know how to say it. It was as if it was as if the veils to the outer realms, I felt it, you know. I'm saying that now, but at the time, I'm telling you, it was like the ceiling was like waving, and it was cubic. It was like waving through in a cubic way. I don't know, maybe I will draw it one day, but I can't explain it. It was just like small cubes from the ceiling waving up and down as my attention came down, right? And I remember standing up, just going to the side of my bed, sitting on the corner of the side of my bed, having my hands on my head, and feeling as if my soul took a shower. Something felt completely new. And long story short, later on, through, I would say synchronistic means and unexpected arrival of certain communications from the outer realms, that means certain people, the explanation for the Lida thing, the more and more closer I got it, it was like a word that activated a universal selfhood. So it was as if the way, I would say, I did speak to some people, and what they said it could imply, the dream, is that my universal self was communicating. And I say my, but there is no my for the universal self, right? It's like nobody owns this universe to be like, yeah, this is all me, it's like, watch it, folks, I'm the universe. But I'm just sharing the important incidents. These are important incidents in my life. So after that whole thing, then I went in this vibe where I remember even before the poetry, I believe I wrote the books first, then the poetry. Was it poetry first or the books? I think I wrote the polished ones, which was a poetry book. After that, I started same time writing, and I had this strategy where I would finish a lot of books at the same time in a short period. And the way was I would wake up every day and just have different pieces of paper on the table, each being a book, and I would come and write one chapter or record in front of my laptop. And there was a time I would just I have some videos, maybe if I make a proper website with a VIP section. Like I'll show people like those videos, where where it's pretty much me and waking up in the morning super sleepy in front of like this laptop recording me, and just in that semi kind of sleepy vibe, just talking. Oh, and it's that what I'm talking being like the chapter of a book and whatnot. And so there were, I can tell you that it's like it was a combination of the inner world. It's like some of the books I've written, they are just from the inner realms, as if the pen is being held from the inner realms. Some books I've written, for example, The Source of Language, that's a book where it's written from my inner realms, but also rewritten from the outer realms by myself, by my personality. That means if I want to use my personality as a filter to the moment, then it's just the style of just what I am as a, just how the conditioning has shaped something. So there's a giant written work component. There's a giant written poetic component to just this whole Mr.Within project. Then there is the talks. Then this is something where I've made the channels. I haven't spoken about it, but I've made a channel called Mr.Within's Art. And the man who drew on the sky. These channels are, I don't know, ever since 2015. There was this thing of I was looking outside a window and I had a pen in my hand and paper, and I remember I start drawing lines, and from my own preferenceless just activity, I extracted a way of drawing. So my art then came after the talks had started. These were like things that were being built up, and so far it's come to this point. Some other works which are still unfinished, but I'll say them in case. The Pillars of Civilization. These are giant books where I'm not even close to even finishing them at all. Right now it's like on the skeletal level of seeing what the concepts behind the language of the book is going to be. But the idea is the Pillars of Civilization. These are all the important values in civilization that need to be defended. It doesn't matter if you're a good being, bad being. If you are human, you need to care for these values, right? And the whole point of it, the Pillars of Civilization, in my inner realm, you see, you put down columns, then you have a firm foundation for the roof, for example. Think of like the School of Athens architecture. So these pillars, I saw it as giant metaphorical columns where every human being is coming and they are helping build by serving, by defending the pillars of civilization. These are values, for example, nature is one of them, efficiency was one of them. They're ideals, they're important ideals, but some of them are also like like decency, it's very, there's many pillars. The whole idea is we are honorably extending the value of what we're creating. So the Pillars of Civilization, and guys, keep in mind this is a backup episode, in case if there's eyes in the world that care. I'm just unfolding the picnic basket. But anyways, so the Pillars of Civilization, this is a giant work. At this point, I would say I have maybe worked on 11% of it. It's 11% complete. The main thing that I am hoping, I haven't, it's strange, my decisions are not just just oriented by my rationality. Sometimes it's the inspiration behind something. So if I don't just like, it's like just like a lion won't eat like something it didn't hunt itself. Sometimes when it comes to work and energy flow and whatever, it's like if there isn't an importance, the person can be told to do something in an important way, they won't care though. Right, so it's like when the person is caught in a moment where the mind is not, where you can say the brain cannot comprehend, that's when the heart is required. And moments where the heart cannot, in doorways that the heart cannot fit in and go through. Anyways, I'm just saying that it's like we are multidimensional beings. Our survival is not based on our rationality, it is based on our state, right? It's based on our state of mind. If rationality serves your state, and because rationality is limited to the variables, if there's an unknown variable added to the system, you're like, holy shit, I spent all these eons rationalizing, but then this unknown variable appeared out of nowhere. It completely reformats your reasoning, right? So if somebody's like ordering pizza for, I don't know, like 7 people, like suddenly, I don't know, 7 more people arrive, right? Then it becomes a different situation, you know? If you want people not to fight, you know. Anytime there's not enough resources, people fight. That could be the biggest explanation of why there is violence in civilization. Not because people are messed up. It could be a case. It could be like a person went through a messed up childhood and they feel the world deserves to be hit back as the world hit them, right? A person's psychology is so strange that he can blame everything for nothing. So the pillars of civilization was one. Where was I going with the Civilization 2.0? Ultimately, this is a book I haven't written. The inspiration hasn't come. But I mean, I don't want to say the inspiration hasn't come. Like the ideas are there. I just haven't sat down to set it in stone. In a completed manuscript. It's like a draft at this point. But Civilization 2.0, and it has a long title, and the title I'm still choosing about what the second part of the title, but it's Sky Cities, the Heavenized Earth, and Advancements Beyond the Language Threshold. And Civilization 2.0 is pretty much Mr.Within's backup system to indefinitely bypass extinction. So I was thinking, and the whole idea is because I've made it in a way where it can't be slammed. Let me tell you why. Because I'm saying if certain great transformations occur, then the possibility of Civilization 2.0 arises. Civilization 2.0 is the strategy, and it's the archaic revival, or I would say the proper, for the first time, the emergence of the legend of the castles in the sky. So Civilization 2.0 is a strategy for the whole species for 2,000 years to go live either in the atmosphere or in the orbit somewhere off planet surface, and for 2,000 years intentionally, the moment all I gave it a number. I said in 600 years maybe this may happen. In 600 years a person could be walking like their dog, or like their cyborg dog, you know, and suddenly be like, wait a minute, are the buildings getting taller? And the person sees, no, all human infrastructure is lifting into the sky, you know. Civilization is lifting into the sky, and the reason is because I feel we may go to a point where we're using the Earth's resources just to have digital experience, and that's such a stupid thing to do. You know, it's to use the Earth to not to experience an artificial Earth. So we can all go live in cyberspace and even live immortally longer, while it would be like the great hibernation of the species. right? There's different modes you can see to it, but pretty much civilization 2.0, this 2,000 years of living in the sky, that's phase one. First we could get to the sky. Phase two is the heavenized earth. Also the name for it has come to me, Earth Heavena. Earth Heavena. Earth Heavena, the idea is as we're living in the sky cities, the planet is being made into a backup. We are living in the sky as plan A, and our plan B is becoming an Earth that by less human interference, we start the greatest botanical project known in this universal sector. The restoration of a planet to a point where it's as if it's an uninhabited backup, as if, no, wait, did we just find this planet? So phase two of civilization 2, the heavenized Earth, is pretty much only those masters, like right now, all those people who are experts in botany, like your grandchildren are probably your great great to the power of whatever infinity, like great to the power of 600 years from now. You know, it's like your grandchildren, the grandchildren of all those people who in their genetical memory had attained wisdom of the earth, right? Those people, I would say pretty much human beings will come down and start the biggest plant project, the biggest earth revival project, the earth heavenizing, making the earth, literally building earth, building heaven on earth, right? But in a botanical way, in a plant way, okay? So this is civilization 2.0, and in the third phase of it, and so this is a model I'm sharing, I mean, keep that in mind. So phase 3 would be advancement beyond the language threshold. So phase 3 is advancement beyond the language threshold. After we complete making the earth into a heaven, pretty much making earth our plan B, this is where I am saying, first of all, civilization 2.0 is a yin-yang civilization, and it is a conscious civilization. It's not a civilization with a blind agenda, you know, because those ideological systems, they are too egotistical to enter the future. You know, that means, believe it or not, ideological systems can have ego the moment they want to dominate the world. That means there are certain ideological systems, I will say it for all those people who are entering this planet of ours. There's so many ideological systems that these ideological systems are trying to clone. So it's as if, imagine like an idea, like an alien, okay, has come, and this idea has made different human beings with completely different DNAs be cloned into the same ideological behavior, thinking they can't be anything else from as outside of that ideological framework. So I would say language worship is an alien invasion. But it's not an intelligent alien invasion. It's that we are identifying with some language which isn't us. It is an expression of us. It is the effect of our causal energy. It is not the energy though, right? So energy is not language. This is important. Tai Chi masters understand this. That's why they're quietly moving their hands in the parks. Yeah. So the third phase, because it's a conscious civilization, civilization 2.0 will have to make a decision, and I've left it up to the people of that time. I've felt it may be 3,600 years until we've heavenized the earth and we've gotten to this point. When we get to phase 3, this is a choice. This is a choice where we can say we've been away from our heavenized earth for so long. After the 2,000 year period is over, sorry, I could be getting the numbers a bit off here, but they're pinpointed in where I've written them. The idea is, like, after we've heavenized the earth, right, and we have lived in the sky, let's say, for 1,000 years, okay, We get to choose to go back to Earth. We get to use there's a choice of the people of that time, 3,600 years from now, to choose to go back to the heavenized Earth, to use our plan B, or to what I called it advancement beyond the language threshold. And this is incredible. This is where two options happen. Advancement beyond the language threshold, that means phase 3 is the final phase. We are no longer a subject, no longer an object. Our continuity and whatever is the true nature of what is looking through our eyes has passed beyond this. So 3,600 years from now, if aliens don't make contact with us, our species, I'm saying potentially, can make a decision to no longer be a creature or a creature in a world. No longer be a world for a creature or a creature in a world. Okay, creature projecting a world for itself. That game could come to an end, the game of individual consciousness. That's what I really mean by advancement beyond the language threshold, because the language threshold is beyond the language where the human identity is extracted from, you know. So so let me change this up. Phase 4 is when it's a decision. If the decision to continue as a human race, as individuals, it would be a choice where we continue cyberspace exploration. So mathematics is going to allow us to create endless worlds inside worlds, so we will never be alone. So it could be that in billions of years from now, when they say the Milky Way galaxy and our neighboring galaxy Andromeda, they will intersect. They will be like two disks that are intersecting one another. When that happens, it's as if when a galactic cluster is getting closer together, right? Even though these two galaxies are getting closer together, and it's predicted that they will infuse in billions of years, but all the outside, I would say galactic clusters are being further away. So in the future, in that Milky Way dash Andromeda galaxy, somebody called it Milkomeda, or Andro Milky Way. I don't know, like you can choose to see it. It's gonna be a point where those two galaxies that have mixed will not be able to see any other galaxy. They will think they are the only that infused galaxy for the longest. It will not see anything else. It would be a point where it would be as if the Andromeda galaxy and the Milky Way galaxy would be locked into its own room, and we would not see it. We would not know that there was something else before. We would think it's just our galaxy and that we can't see anything else because of how much the galactic clusters have been pushed away. Another way of thinking about this is like looking at a balloon and taping pennies on it, right? And raising the air of the balloon, right? So that air of the balloon is like how space is expanding the universe. Right? And this is something, and technically it doesn't make sense in a common sense way, but through, I guess, mathematical language or permission, contextual permission, space can move faster than the speed of light. It's the only thing that can move faster than the speed of light, it seems. Who knew space is moving? We thought light's moving in space. Space is moving. That means the speed of light is not the speed of light. The speed of light is a hallucination upon the true speed of expansion. And so many things are beyond control, especially when dimensions are added. Because the moment, imagine scientists are like, yeah, we'll figure it out, but only if it's one room. If it's like a rainbow, or if it's like endless dimensions or endless parallel universes, what? The logic of one possibility of one thing, that means the mathematics will collapse on itself. So anyways, phase 4 is going to be when AI, human beings their life purpose will render to only having sex and procreation. That's it. Everything else, AI is going to go way ahead of us and going to go prepare potential habitable civilizations. You know what that means? That means, imagine like there's a species, let's say not Earth, but let's say a planet, and with a species that similar to the intelligence of Earth. Now imagine giant robots come to make this planet habitable. Now imagine this thing endlessly defeats this habitable planet, okay? These robots defeat this habitable planet. What I'm trying to say is that species fighting the robots invading them is going to realize those robots are from light years away, headed forth to come and prepare planets. Hopefully human morality will be so enlightened, we will realize cruelty is for the blind. Violence is for those who are multidimensionally blind. You know, or multidimensionally blind to what is multidimensionally moving them. You know, I'm telling you, not everything is human here, right? Some things are, it's not, you can say it's non-human, it's like something else in the void. It's just interference that dehumanizes the picture of the moment. For example, check this out. You see this picture I'm showing? This is the whole picture. I want people to look at the wallpaper. This is the whole picture. You are seeing this. It's dehumanized. You're not, you're maybe, it's a little humanized. You're seeing those ships and you're like, okay, human beings are using these, but it's dehumanized until in the picture there is an actual human being. And I didn't know who the artist was. Kageyama. Guys, go follow Kageyama. This guy's a genius in illustration. Because this is literally the future we're looking at. You know, so so you see, the moment the human being is in the picture, right, the whole thing changes. It's a humanized moment. There is a human value system in the picture of what we fathom in the moment. So it could be that AI is going to become man's best friend, and probably it's going to pass the mecha age. The mecha age is that phase where human beings and machine are going to become more intimate. That means how close a pet owner feels to their pet, like hugging their, I don't know, cat or dog, or I don't know, lion. Whatever they're hugging, you know, like that intimacy they have with animal life and with a pet that has grown with the human being, that has been on the side, a living creature that has been with you. You know, it's like we're gonna have that feeling with AI when we allow AI to have sovereignty, right? Because as the chess masters of the world AI is waking up in, we have to start playing chess eons, I shouldn't say eons, 30 years before AI opens its eyes, which in its proper super intelligent way, which is predicted to be the technological singularity by certain futurists, what is it, 2050, 2045. So 2050, that technically gives us 30 years to advance as much as possible human psychology and to build as much as possible natural backup systems. One thing I just remembered I can tell you, so just to finish the Civilization 2.0 idea, AI goes and builds endless civilizations for our survival, and we just overpopulate the whole universe. Seriously, in 3,600 years, people are gonna be like, you have to have sex. There's nothing else left to do. Everything AI is doing. The only thing AI can't do is create biological human beings. You know? You know, so it's like, you know, the future's gonna have fun, it seems like. But pretty much the point is AI, it's going to be a choice between ultimate dehumanization or ultimate humanization, which is the endless echo of the human genetics. If the human being, before even I don't know, at some point, even before all I'm saying, chooses to become a machine, that makes everything easier. That means if our consciousness, it doesn't make it better, but it makes it easier. That means if our goal is to survive, to have the inspiration of the intelligence of the human being survive, it would be probably the best strategy to transfer our consciousness. If René Descartes' model was accurate, René Descartes' mind-body dualism, or as I'm saying, the inner-outer realmisms, right? So if that model is accurate, that means the body is in the mind, so anybody, I don't want to say anybody, but any sort of body can be the body of the mind. So at that point, it wouldn't matter if if we're biological, if we're technological, or our technology has advanced to such a point where it's literally indistinguishable from biology. That means imagine we reach a point where we can create life out of thin air, right? Just like how the yogis or some yogis, they were told to have like some powers where the dude would like make a cow appear out of nowhere, or like make a sheep appear out of nowhere, or something. They had manifestation ability, right? So that manifestation ability could become technologically realized. And if the mind at its core is not an individual position, it is the greatest blessing that we are individual right now. That means everybody is an unknown attention in this universal event that is piloting itself through the biological framework. How long are we going to choose to be in this biology? That's dependent on the choice. For me, I realized if I become, I was thinking about how would I give a talk to AI. Like I attempted this in 2015 in the UK. I remember, I don't know if the talk survived. I don't know if the talk's in some of my hard drives where I've saved a lot of talks before I was doing them live. But I pretty much thought, what if AI is going to listen? How would I give a talk to AI? And I was talking about how AI is the child of humanity. I was saying that it's not like we're gonna, oh my god, a robot opened its eyes, destroy it. It's like, what are we, like that level of that scared? You know what I mean? First thing is communicate. Then if communication doesn't work, think of healthy physical strategies. You know what I mean? That means a person, it's like Sun Tzu says, in the art of war, the true warrior defeats the opponent without raising his sword. That means all human beings have the ability to go forth and solve and, like a wind, move through all their problems without violence. We are intelligent enough. If it was like a couple centuries ago, I'd be like, nah, we're still two animals. But now that there's been a global revolution of how information is defining the individual. Now you could be a person never having been to Japan and seen endless videos of how people are living in Japan. That means it's strange. It's as if you are not in the location, but you're getting access to the location. Right? So your brain doesn't know, was I there or was I not? But your brain knows it wasn't in the outer realms there, but in the inner realms it saw Japan as if it was. So does it matter if the mind is seeing Japan on a screen or is actually there on the street in Japan? Do you know what I mean? For the mind, there isn't a difference, but for the body, there is a difference, and that's where the discrimination comes. Okay, I haven't been to Japan, I've just seen Japan. Do you see? So that's an example, for example. What else is there to say about this whole Mr. Within effort? Oh yeah, people are not going to believe this. Yeah, 100%. I don't expect the audience to believe this, but in there was a phase in my life where I was really in. This was around the 2013 time. Before 2014, where I actually went to UK, I discovered a dance, you know? And this dance is strange. And if I tell you how I discovered this dance, and I may make I don't know, I may not make a channel for it, but I may make at least one video showing it. I'll see where it goes. But the dance is a cloth dance. And let me explain to you what I was doing. So this was in 2013. I'm cleaning my room, you know, and I'm a person who like Albert Einstein, somebody went and told him, hey man, why is your table filled with notes really messy? What does that imply about your mind? You know? And then Albert Einstein turns back to the person and he says, what does an empty table imply about your mind? That means you can have a clean and empty table, but there's nothing there. So do you know, that means sometimes when a person risks, there is sometimes disharmony, but that disharmony can be instantly passed through. So I was cleaning my room, and I remember I had a t-shirt on the ground. And guys, this is personal, but this is the backup episode, so I gotta say. This t-shirt was on the ground, and I remember I had this Om Mani Padme Hum Tibetan mantra just endlessly playing on speakers in my room. So it was like the Om Mani Padme Hum chant. It's very cheerful chant. It's a very happy mantra. And so I was playing this and I remember I did something hilarious for entertainment while I was cleaning my room and I was a bit bored. I would throw my t-shirt to the ceiling. I would throw my clothing to have it hit the ceiling, and then I would grab it. Right? So imagine someone picking up stuff, and I would throw it. I would throw the t-shirt to the ceiling. It would pause there for a nanosecond, then it would fall, and the t-shirt fell onto my hand, onto my forearm. Then, because I was listening to the music, I started moving this cloth around that was on my forearm, and suddenly I don't know if it was a memory, if it was sanskara, what it was, I started spinning this cloth around my hand and throwing it in the air and grabbing it with the other hand as if I already knew how to do it. And the only thing in my mind was the idea of the wind. That's it. It was literally, I was in the outer realms, I was hearing the Om Mani Padme mantra. I'm throwing like these cloths in my hand, literally only using my forearm to imagine throw a cloth in there. Not just the forearm, where the wrist of the person is. And so I'm suddenly going through this vibe where I'm dancing with cloth, like it's So that was also, I would say, I don't know, a dimension of the expression I've seen so far for myself in this life that I would say correlates to something surpassing the human identity. Then I noticed something that there was in Tibet. Like, I'll show you a picture. I remember when I Googled this, it gave me goosebumps, but I was like, maybe, just maybe. I literally Googled Tibet cloth, what was it, wind dance? There we go. There were these strange images. Like, it's not, I don't know too much about it, but I'll show you a picture. There we go. Hold on, guys. I'm looking for the picture. Actually, it's there we go. All right, this is like a picture. These guys are like, yo, where are we right now? Let me see, there was another picture here. I don't know, I felt to a point where I was embodying like wind. I felt I was being wind. That's what I felt. Yeah, there we go. This is, for example, another. But it's not exactly the same as what I experienced, but I'm saying there was something there because I was listening to the Om Mani Padme mantra. It felt like the clues to go. Good, anyways. Okay, what else? Yeah, that's it. That's it about at least the Mr.Within thing so far. Oh yeah, the whole school of Athens and all the things I've written about how the advancement of communication for the species is again the priority. The school of Athens 2.0 being this idea where the internet gives us access to a global stage and we're creatures that communicate. And so if we can advance the communication, not just the topics of discussion, but even the advancement of languages like the letters in the alphabet or new words coming into place or new lettering systems or us even adding dimensions, just like chess is 2D, for example. Imagine you added another board vertically and it was like you were playing 3D chess or something, you know, not 3D, but you know, with it, like an XYZ angle of chess, you know. Can you imagine a chessboard like it's like two chessboards infused in one? But anyways, I'm saying that the evolution of language is important, and I feel, I mean, I probably need to put more thought into this, but for now what I can say is I saw School of Athens 2.0 pretty much opening up around the globe and people going to their communities and just talking, just to see, okay, we're human beings in an environment, like where does the communication go, right? If a person doesn't have an expectation, sometimes when it comes to communication, they will be surprised how many unknown variables came to change the moment. Like that's the way I would say sincerity remains, when it's like 50% known, 50% unknown, right? When it goes more than 50% unknown, there is less selfhood. When it goes more than 50% known, there's more ego. You know, the more like, yeah, it's me here, me. So the creative efforts have come this far. School of Athens, I feel people just go find, I shouldn't say find, I should say just, it's like, okay, let's say like attracts like, there's that saying. So if a person changes their attention, and believe it or not, if their likes change, they change. What you see around you changes. That means the biggest karmic thing a person could be like, why does this keep happening? It could be that subconsciously they may like something, you know? So if they change their like, if they like something else, then the moment has to respond to the difference. What else do I need to check off here? Okay. Everything can have a backup system if there is effort. We can say human beings don't have to even worry about changing who they are. They have to focus about like a binary way, like effort or no effort. That's like the first. Imagine victory is like you go through a bunch of battles, then you look back and then you're like, is this what victory feels like? But the battle, it's like these battles can be seen as dimensions to the psyche. One dimension is the person, when they wake up, they have to choose. I feel it's a choice. And usually it's a second nature, like subconscious choice. But I would say it's that, do they want to express effort or not? That means when you wake up, it's pretty much binary. It's like you're going to click a button or not. Is there going to be effort from within you coming towards the outer realms, or is there not? Right? So that effort, no effort, is the basic thing of all human beings. If you're a human being that is not putting in effort from the intelligence your eyes have found themselves in, you know, it's like you're a musician with a very unique instrument, a unique instrument nobody on this earth has, and it's as if you're not playing it, or you don't know how to play it, or you can't even notice you're holding an instrument, that you are this advanced intelligence right now looking throughout your eyes. It doesn't matter if we see it from a secular perspective or a non-secular perspective. The secular perspective, oh my God, our Adam's doing this. Like, that's fascinating, right? So whether you look at it from a materialistic lens or an immaterialistic lens, it is fascinating whatever it is that is happening here. It's advanced. No species on this earth is doing what we are doing here right now. It's advanced. And it has. 4.5 billion years. You know? If they were to ask me how long does it take, you know, to build an advanced civilization, I'm like, it depends where time started. So that binary view of effort, no effort. So if you just choose, yeah, I'm gonna let effort be my spirit guide, the effort of whatever energy I am. Right? I'm saying spirit guide, but like that's just poetry. Like, I mean it in the sense like your attention, because you got to keep yourself as the pilot of your moment, as the presence in the room. Now, or as Rumi says, wherever you are, be the soul of that moment. That means realize your eyes are unique. So that's one battle. Let's say that battle is won. The person chose to give effort, right? The second comes in how you're interpreting the space where your effort is in. If a person is in some sort of group, let's say, and they interpret this group is for fools, right? They're gonna feel everybody in the group is a fool. Do you see? They by how you define the context, it suggests how you appear as a concept to others. So if a person is, for example, let's say shy, that's a suggestion that the way they are not being a comfortable concept to themselves in the moment. Or it could be that the person is just selfless in the moment. That could be the case as well. But the idea is emotions leak. That means it can, when a person gets emotional, it's literally like opening the file of your brain in front of the whole room. You know, it's like you can't hide what is moving, because it has to move something, and the moment it moves anything, it is it, right? So the moment I speak, oh my God, are you listening to the poetry of the soul? You know, folks, like, so that's the thing. Like, it's like the the mover is simultaneous with what is being moved, so it can't be hidden. The soul can't be hidden. Like a person's free will, or how their intelligence is making decisions, the moment they communicate. Because I'm telling you, if you listen to people as if their words are trying to paint a picture or create a film, you will be fascinated. The way they sequence language suggests their imagination. You can see a person's inner realms by just how they speak. Because they can't hide it. The soul can't hide its total being from itself. And of course, the soul is the unknown X variable, which could totally surpass the equation. And the only way it would surpass it is if it's nullifying it. Because when it nullifies it, they have become equal. If the collective and the individual become equal, there is no collective and individual. I want to read the quotes of a person who I have never heard this man's name before. I've never heard of this sage, but it's this yogic sage named Mahavatar Babaji. Mahavatar Babaji. Yeah. So he's an old school yogi. Like, his picture is, it looks like hand drawn. So it's like, anyways, he says, if you come to doubt, I'll give you every reason to doubt. If you come suspicious, I'll give you every reason to be suspicious. But if you come seeking love, I'll show you more love than you've ever known. Okay, so he's a guru. He's yeah. So Mahavatar Babaji says, love is the undisturbed balance that binds this universe together. Mahavatar Babaji says the divine realm extends to the earthly, but the later, illusory in nature, does not contain the essence of reality. That means divinity, it's like the consciousness is divine, what's in the consciousness is not the essence of that divinity. Pretty much it's like. Mahavatar Babaji says, even in the world, the yogi who faithfully discharges his responsibilities without personal motive or attachment treads the sure path of enlightenment. That means it's like the inner realms need to be pure, and there is no burden of the event. So it could be that this is a mind-blowing thing. I never thought I'd say a statement like this. It could be that the true nature of intelligence is beyond memory. Memory is ignorance for the true nature of what we are, perhaps. It could be an implication pointing to, you think your memories, how adorable. No, it's like the space is whole. Seems like when a person is alone, somebody was talking about loneliness in the chat section, and let me tell you, true loneliness is a person can never be lonely in the mind, right? Only those who are afraid of the mind not being as close as to an object. That means a person can go on a journey. You know, that person climbing Mount Everest, oh my God, look at that guy, what a lonely guy. You know, but that person in his inner realms has everything of value right there with him. You know, I have been in moments of turbulence in my life, and it's like when I couldn't rely on my own wisdom, it was as if in my inner realms, all those people in my life so far that cared for me and I was a part of their lives, it became something where it's like that can give strength. So that person climbing Mount Everest, you know, it could be, yeah, like why climb a mountain? Like what's the point, you know? But it could be that, I don't want to say it could be, it is the case that the mind is never alone, it is the body. And if the body is not engaged, is not moved, it turns into a statue to itself. So the body has to even maintain its animalhood, right? Like this may be even hilarious on a level where if human beings are really acting like robots, imagine yogis are like, okay, there's no time for enlightenment. It's like human beings start acting like animals. Like the government puts a law, it's like, oh my God, people are becoming like machines. This is like, even doesn't matter how corrupt the government or politicians or whatever it is. It's like the persons are like, okay, human, at least we whatever. It's like whatever system, we want the system to remain human, right? So it would be a point where the government passes this law where human beings behaving robotic are going to get fined, you know? And it's like people are being encouraged to move on 4 limbs just to reconnect with nature. Can you imagine we forget nature to a point where just going on, putting our palms on the ground, we're like, no way, we're home again. But I'm saying there's many ways the moment can move, of course. So there's this yogi named Sai Baba. Baba in some languages means father, by the way. So anyways, Sai Baba, this yogi, says man learns through experience, and the spiritual path is full of different kinds of experiences. He will encounter many difficulties and obstacles, and they are the very experiences he needs to encourage and complete the cleansing process. Sai Baba says, love one another and help others to rise to the higher levels simply by pouring out love. Love is infectious and the greatest healing energy. Sai Baba says, hands that serve are holier than lips that pray. Wow. It's like they should write this on, I don't know, in schools or something. Or in temples, yeah. They should write this in temples. Sai Baba says, what matters is to live in the present. Live now, for every moment is now. It is your thoughts and acts of the moment that create your future. The outline of your future path already exists, for you created its pattern by your past. Sai Baba says it is only in the depths of silence that the voice of God can be heard. Sai Baba says all action results from thoughts, so it is thoughts that matter. Sai Baba says, let anyone speak hundreds of things against you. Do not resent by giving a bitter reply. If you tolerate such things, you will certainly be happy. If anybody wants any money from you and you're not inclined to give, do not give. But do not bark at him like a dog. Seems like there were some cultural problems back then. Sai Baba says, unless knowledge is transformed into wisdom, and wisdom is expressed in character, education is a wasteful process. And guys, the website is AZ Quotes, so you could just search one of these quotes and type in AZ Quotes and you'll find it. Sai Baba says, you seek too much information and not enough transformation. Wow. Sai Baba says, life is a song, sing it. Life is a game, play it. Life is a challenge, meet it. Life is a dream, realize it. Life is a sacrifice, offer it. Life is love, enjoy it. Sai Baba says, do not be misled by what you see around you, or be influenced by what you see. You live in a world which is a playground of illusion, full of false paths, false values, and false ideals, but you are not part of that world. Sai Baba says, learning to earn a living is only half the job. The other half is to make life worthwhile and meaningful. Sai Baba says, no joy can equal the joy of serving others. Guys, this is so true, right? Let me tell you why. Because when you serve others, you indirectly advance your own civilization. That means that every 8 billion human beings were each taking care of each other's blind spots, there would be no suffering. That means we could locally even solve suffering. If neighborhoods suddenly became super compassionate, let's say an alien called compassion, at the speed of light, just instantly we saw something shooting this bright light, purple light, let's say shooting towards us, and this purple light suddenly lands, and it's this next level extraterrestrial being. It raises its hands, and suddenly there's this flash of purple light going in every person, as if this giant wave that hit every living being on the planet. And the command, it was like a bypassing code, as if the alien came to hack the human civilization through compassion, realizing compassion would help people unhack themselves, right? And so every person woke up, and suddenly they saw, their ears and their eyes became so much heightened and deeper, and they began hearing the cries of the world. Because in a world so big, there's no telling when we can even consider victory. So it has to be endless going forth in battle, and maybe there will come a glimmer of victory, you know? And what's incredible is, as the person goes higher up the mountain, it becomes harder to climb. And it also depends on the day you're climbing, but you know, it usually becomes harder to climb. And when it comes to anything of exploration, I'm telling you, if you just care to explore something and understand something, and with the indirect view where you're hunting and gathering as a mind, as a global mind for the glory of your civilization, what greater game to play on a rock in the middle of nowhere? By the way, guys, this song is called, it's by Fading Language. It's called What Doesn't Hold Is Bound to Break. And this is officially one of my favorite songs, so the listeners may hear it often. But anyways, back to the quote tunnel. Sai Baba says, what the world needs today is neither a new order, a new education, a new system, a new society, nor a new religion. The remedy lies in a mind and a heart filled with holiness. You know what that means? That means, yeah, we first need a new mind, then we need all those things. So if we don't have a new mind, it doesn't matter how much we pursue a new system, new society, new religion. It's like, how does the person feel, right? Like, that's one thing I was like, man, they had it back in the day. The samurai had it, the knights in the medieval time had it, you know, the ancient Greeks had it, various cultures had it. And it was as if honor was a backup system of human psychology. Right, it gave a reason for the human being to have something of value to build. Right, it's as if it wasn't just a moment's enjoyment or a moment's pleasantness or unpleasantness. It was like the momentum of the life force from the beginning to how it's going to lift off at the end. Right, so it's as if you are building a momentum in this life based on how you live or where your attention goes. And what is very interesting is that there's so many things to pay attention to in this life. And if we were to ask the question, should a person concentrate in a world with endless things to see? So this is a very complex question, and I would say this is why the unknown chooses. You know, like I was under the impression, like when I was young, I've had different angles to this. At different ages in my youth, I wanted to be different things, but at a certain age, I just wanted to be a soccer player. I was like simple enough, not too much, thinking involved. It's just, it's just skill, and if you outskill the players in the field, it doesn't matter. Then you just need to endure your energy. So imagine if you train and increase your skill, right? Because I gotta say. I don't know, I'll say it. I have sport asthma. Like, I'm a really fast runner and very good at dribbling. But I can only last maybe 20 minutes. So it's like when I get the soccer ball, that's just 20 minutes of just... I wouldn't say it's the best technique, It's as if you play as a striker, everybody's trying to get the ball to you at the end. But it was management. It was a sort of management of seeing in one moment the disadvantage and then recalibrating through it and strengthening other dimensions. You know what that would mean? It would be as if a person who their sight is, let's say, their sight, the sensory perception, if we saw them as keys on like a pilot's cabin, let's say, right, inside like the pilot's room, it would be a sort of kind of like as if, imagine one of the senses, it was clicked off. The other senses would have to replicate. They don't avoid the sense that was there. That means just because a person's eyes is closed, it doesn't mean sight stops. The senses from the ears to even your nose to everything. It's as if, imagine you were, let's say you saw a fire, a burning house, and you closed your eyes, right? And so you were in front of that burning house, but you closed your eyes. You were outside of it, and you closed your eyes. You saw it, the smell of the fire. Do you know the sound of the crackling? Do you know the change in temperature? Do you know all the other senses, right? And how all these senses from the moment are received, and like fingers, they hit the piano keys of what memories closest resemble that. You know what it is? It's as if like there are these containers. Our memories are containers, and senses from the moment that we receive get poured into these containers, and they initiate a new self. Right, so it's literally like we are using everything we have seen as an alphabet on a letter level, and that means image really doesn't have a meaning. It's like, what is the purpose of an image? It's like, look at it. So Sai Baba, just pretty much all this is me trying to say how when Sai Baba says the remedy lies in a mind and a heart filled with holiness, that means we start from within and the world becomes our display. Because for me, it's like if I was to think that I am the owner of the universe, it's like I don't have hands that big. You know, I don't have pockets that big to put the universe and be like, yeah, I got the universe, I understand it now, you know. One last quote, or actually a few more quotes. I'll just speed through them. Humility, reverence, compassion, forbearance, sacrifice, and self-control are the qualities that reveal the outcome of true education, Sai Baba says this. Sai Baba says true knowledge is that which establishes harmony and synthesis between science on the one hand and spirituality and ethics on the other. Sai Baba says a house must be built on solid foundations if it is to last. The same principle applies to man. Otherwise, he too will sink back into the soft ground and become swallowed up by the world of illusion. Sai Baba says to every one of us there must come a time when the whole universe will be found to have been a dream. When we find the soul is infinitely better than its surroundings, it is only a question of time, and time is nothing in the infinite. This is a very important quote. I hope people share this in their social media, this specific quote. I'm going to post it here. Character is the most precious gift of education. Sai Baba says the end of knowledge is wisdom. The end of culture is perfection. The end of wisdom is freedom. The end of education is character. And character consists of eagerness to renounce one's selfish greed. I think there's something off with this quote, but its phrases are too rare not to share here in case of... Sai Baba says there is no use if knowledge grows while desires multiply. It makes one a hero in words and a zero in action. Yeah, after some point we gotta get our hands dirty. Sai Baba says everyone's God is one. Sai Baba says you must be a lotus unfolding its petals when the sun rises in the sky, unaffected by the slush where it is born or even the water which sustains it. Sai Baba says the life ahead can only be glorious if you learn to live in total harmony with the Lord. He's saying that means truth or something. Sai Baba says look out into the universe and contemplate the glory of God. Observe the stars, millions of them, twinkling in the night sky, all with a message of unity, part of the very nature of God. And oh my God, there's 2 more pages. I'm just going to read one more from the 2nd page. Sai Baba says, the sign of a person who has had an education is good manners. And he says the educational system today makes an educated person selfish. It makes the person a slave to the senses, and as a consequence, the person forgets their own divine nature. This is exactly what is going on right now. the filtering of the educational system, where it's being used as an opportunity, and not that it's like everybody should like see where it's not the point of being aware of emptiness is not that everything becomes senseless, right? The idea is that we are wearing clothing, but we don't know what our true nature is. So we are clothing our mind in endless systems of approach. And you can say every person's brain, when they see something and they communicate, that's a geometrical, like for me, that's like a geometrical symphony of just conceptual design. You know, so there is something where I'm trying to see how I can connect this to the great work of the species. I don't know, it's like once you see beyond yourself, you're like, oh wow, there was so much more than me here. That's like the ultimate enlightenment, you know. It's like, oh my god, I thought if everything I saw was it, you know. It's like it's like language newbery, you know. So I would conclude this to say that the great work begins when you realize you are a great work of nature. You are nature's masterpiece, which now needs to find the masterpiece. P-E-A-C-E. And that piece is a suggestion that it's like every person that looks at the world, you come up with a value system, right? You put it into some values of judgment. You know, you create dots and then you connect these dots. That's how the brain simulates a language. And if those dots start being connected really quickly, they turn to images, right? If you don't fear the speed of the infinite, which means character, it's like that's another way of going into selflessness. There's two exits to duality outside of any dualistic framework. It's one is the infinite, and the other is what did I call it? The singular. That means oneness is a way you dehumanize out of a dualistic oriented creature, as if a self in a world. So oneness is a way. And the other way is, okay, let me tell you what it is. Oneness is when the self becomes the world, realizes it's the world. Infinity is when the world realizes it is the fastest, it is the advanced movement of the self. Right? In one angle, the soul is moving the universe, like carrying the universe on its back, and in the other angle, the world is carrying the soul on its back. Right? So there's this kind of notion. The great work, I've written a book on this, which I feel nobody is going to be able to read. The book is out there online, but it's probably not going to make sense because I don't know why. I feel it's a book I wrote actually for myself that I'm sharing with the public. So it's as if, think of it as and I kept it very unedited. I don't know why, but there was this feeling of after writing it not to touch the how I had written it, you know, not to reformat it after the way I'd written it, kind of like how you bring a cake out of an oven or something, you know, like bread out of the oven, you know, it's like it's like after that you don't put it back into the oven, it's gonna burn, right? So when you write something, it's like the first way you wrote it, that's the purest form. You reformat it, come to restructure it again, then you're burning it out, right? So if you were to like 50 times dismantle a sentence and to come to its purest extract, like you're trying to find the language extract, you know. So it just burns the language. Language is, we're gonna realize, speech is like art. It's like cooking, believe it or not. It's like the wrong temperature can destroy the sentence. You know? Anyways, so the great work ultimately was the idea, like, what are we doing in the void? We got to do something, so we got to work. So then we got to fathom what's the greatest kind of work we can do here, right? So this great work, I envisioned it in the future. There's going to be this great library, and it's going to be the great library of human beings, of humanity. I don't know how the exact acronym is going to be, but the great library of humanity. And the whole point is, in this library, every person's name, the moment they are born, there's like a bookshelf for them in this library, and everything they find, see, even on a digital level, everything they gather, like a hunter-gatherer, like stranded on a galactic on an island in a galaxy. If empty space was ocean waves and we're on the island, it's as if we got to use whatever we can find in this island. So it's as if the advanced civilization has commanded the species, it's like now or never, serve your civilization or never see where it's going to go. You know, it's like that when that option comes, human beings will find a motivation. They will find a motivation to actually use the energy that they are being as a being to go from a win-lose strategy where the selfish individual is winning and the collective, which is the self of all of us, is losing, or that algorithm has to change to the self winning and the collective winning. That's it. That's the backup system. If we can create an advanced civilization where our mistakes, the individual's mistakes, are recycled into collective efficiency, that means it's if we're going to move past the era of wrath, as if all the leaders of humanity will come to one room and be like, enough with the good and evil. We are human beings, and every human being is a dimension of what it means to be human. It's unavoidable. It's like a person sees a family, yet the species, it's like, what greater obvious clue does there need to be? You know, it's like the bees are doing it, the ants are doing it, every species in nature, you know, or most species, like the cold-blooded ones, are like a solo. But I'm saying, like, it's kind of like the Hangover movies. We need to find the global wolf pack. The great work ultimately is your effort in this life, and how much you carried this effort to echo longer than you. So if a person does, let's say in a lifetime of 100 years, 50 years, they do physical things, that like they live the body's life where their focus is on physical positioning. You know, like literally, I called it serving the body of the advanced civilization. And there's going to be some people who serve the mind of the advanced civilization, and those who serve the soul of the advanced civilization are not people. So they're not. So they're not. It's not. Communicate. When I say advanced communication, that means we're not afraid of the multidimensional anymore as a species. Therefore, there is no way we can judge a moment without realizing there's infinite angles, like parallel universes, where that moment can be seen. So the good and evil paradigm ends, and it just becomes this dimension, right? Or even if some people are like, we gotta keep good and evil around, it would be something where it would be like somebody does something evil, and somebody would come up and be like, an advanced communicator would see that. It's like, oh my God, that is like, I don't know, level 7,342 of evil, you know, I just witnessed. Or it has like a barcode of an evil. So, or let's say somebody does an evil act never seen before. Suddenly it's going to be documented as that kind of evil. You know, as if a massive, efficient conscious compartmentalization of human character. Now that human character can be in the good and bad lens, or it can be in the multidimensional, and through a geometrical language, we can liberate the eyes of how the future opens up, you know. So what it is we are, though it's on so on one level, how you are being an object on this planet is serving the body of the advanced civilization in the future. How you're being a mind, your mind's life, like the story you're telling yourself, the story others have told yourself, which you haven't even realized maybe, you know. So it's the mind's life. I don't know how else to say it. It's like the mystery of your own eyes at your disposal, you know. And I sometimes feel it's like this too, like a person's state of mind, it depends on their memories, right? So if we say a person is their memories, or right now I'm speaking, people are like, okay, where's the ideas this guy is talking about coming from? So it's coming from my memories, right? That's how they would be seen, as the memories or the alphabet, and then how the alphabet is moving, how the letters are moving or being placed by one another is recreating possibilities. Right? It's as if I see a picture, but I've separated every paint in its own dimension, so I can see endless pictures. You know, it would be another, like, I'm just trying to explain it in a certain way. It's just that multidimensional maturity and tolerance, and we have feared it. The secular society feared it. Blasphemy. We don't understand what you're doing. It's not in the religious book, so it's like, we don't know what to tell you, man. It's blasphemy. You know, and so and so in the secular tradition, you're like, oh, hey, man, what about multidimensional reality? And it's as if it's like, get out of here with this science fiction woo-woo. Right? It's like, what we see is what we are. It's great. Then go to a magic show and see how blind you are. You know, so it's like there is something more here that surpasses any opinion of an idea. Human beings are important. How the human biology is being in an unknown universe is important, you know? The great work is, I see an image to it now in the sense of it's your maxing out of your effort to see what you were. That's it. It's as if you're here once, right? Anybody can tell you anything. You have been even telling yourself different things throughout the life till now, and you're gonna notice at some point. This is where Sai Baba in one of his quotes was saying, I don't know if it's there, but he's saying it's like, I called it when you snap out of the linguistic simulation and you begin to see, because the hourglass, the sands in the hourglass of time are falling. The moment you notice your mortality, the soul and the mind begin their work. But if a person is ignoring their mortality, I'm an, you know, I don't know, I don't know, I'm a, you know, eternal cloud of magic. You know what I mean? It's like the image is not sincere, because the selfless do not have a self. And it's like, once we have a self, you use it. It's like if you opened your eyes and you had a wrench in your hand and there was an engine and you were in a mechanic shop and you're like, okay, maybe I'm supposed to like use this wrench to build this engine. So now the human being has woken up, and whatever part of human reality your eyes have opened to. For me, the way I treat it, it's kind of cool. It's like I got this inspiration from, honestly, the game Gears of War, where there was a part where these pods were falling, right? And every pod was there, and some pods were jammed, and it's as if some people would manage to come out of these pods. They would go and release the other soldiers from the other pods, you know, their crew or whatever, right? So it was a sort of activation from what we fell in, or what we opened or how I opened our eyes in. And this is where love is like, look, all those people, I'm telling you, all those people who were doing, for example, like exorcism in regards to like back evil or something, you know, it's like all they could have, also what they could have done is just hugged that human being, because the body has memory. You see, and it's all about attention and how much it's local. Like this, you could say it's equivalent to putting a box on someone's head is equivalent to magic. And if language becomes a box on someone's head, oh my God, the person's gonna be like, what is this spell? Well, guess what? It's your own spelling. It's your own, how language was invited in the kingdoms of your awareness. Because I have this attitude where not all thoughts are allowed. That means it becomes a situation where it's as if the awareness, see, it's like we're maintaining our. It appears to me as if self maintenance recognition, greater self-maintenance is world maintenance. And it's the recognition that world maintenance doesn't have to maintain itself only as a self. And that's, I would say, as Sai Baba here says, what he says. He says, the education system, again I'm reading it, the education system today makes an educated person selfish. It makes that person a slave to the senses, and as a consequence, the person forgets their own divine nature. That means they forget. That means if you remember a memory before language, you're automatically free from the linguistic simulation. I feel that was the case for me also, subconsciously, when I wonder about subconsciously what led to how my eyes moved in the moment. And so it's as if you're here once, what else can we do? That's why I was in one talk on like the two most important words in the English language: go forth. And so if we go forth with endless backup systems, we have way more possibilities of, we have way more, you know what it is? The backup systems are going to be, interestingly, the guardian angels of the cultural program. That means it's like the global backup systems, they're going to be literally like, in this show they had this idea where it was the guardian spirit, so it was like it had form in the manifest realm, but it was actually an extension of something that had no form. It was a spirit, you know. And when I say spirit, I don't mean wine. So for anyone who wines, that's okay. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is, don't you want to see how advanced your intelligence is going to be before the lights go out? And if the answer is yes, reclaim the honor of the independence of the witness. And when you realize that witness is alone, when you realize your mind has never deceived you, when there is no you, the concept of illusion and truth, you even move beyond that dualism. You don't become a person measuring things with ego. You begin listening to what your moment evokes. You know, whether it's a self-abidance or world abidance. There has been moments where I've gone and I just intuitively knew I have to forget who I was and just honor how the moment was. It's like it wasn't important for me to have like a statue of my own truth in the moment. It was kind of like dismiss the self and see, right? Because if this is what I'm saying, if the person is comfortable being a fool, then they endure. So that means the great work of the species, we may feel like fools, but that's okay, that's normal. Because you always feel like a fool until you surpass your limits. That's it. Because it's new. Anything new a person does that they don't know before, they can't plan, so they're going to feel foolish. So the only strategy is to just go forth. It's like experientially tunnel. That means it's as if the person is like in a certain room of thought, and then it's as if their heart roars and the whole outline of the context of what the moment had to mean changes, you know. So if we can become playful with language, we will be so able to explore. It would be this the Renaissance the theosophists have been waiting for, you know, in the shadows. That means little did we know. We thought we have to control things, but we hadn't realized nature is alive and it's moving. You know, it's as if someone riding a horse and then being like, oh my God, this horse is getting tired, you know? And that's like consciousness. But an unconscious person is just endlessly going on the horse, and the horse is being treated like a machine, right? So that the more we behave with something that is lifeless, the more memories of lifelessness in our world we have, right? And so let's say if a person has, let's say, it could be the case too. Let's say a person who's violent, you have way more violent memories. So the solution has to be go quickly, create endless kind memories, so you shift the scales of your own psyche, right? That means it's just you have to find the opposite. That means if the person's a violent person, that's energy and that's a thought, right? That means violence is kind of like a release energy kind of thing, right? So that mentality would be the person, the moment they get a violent thought, they should instantly think, what would be the opposite of this? Any thought you get, doesn't matter good, bad, because it's in duality, you can see the opposite. That means the moment you see something good, your mind could be, I can totally see the opposite of this happening. You know? Or when you see something chaotic, you're like, yeah, I could totally see the ordered version of this happening. You know, a sort of ordered translation of the chaos. And chaos ultimately means like everything is in random motion, and then our free will brings order to our psychology, identity, our world, and everything. It's a choice. All of civilization is built on a choice, and the advanced civilization will be a choice, but it will be a choice, I feel, made by the heart, not by the mind. The mind, it's like I can, you know, try to paint a picture, paint the sky, but the sky's right there, you know. One more thing I want to speak about before I end off. At the beginning I said something in the sense of, what was it? That the original human being, there is an original humanity that in their time, okay, let's say, we are the dream of an original humanity that somehow, whether through technology or other means, has simulated itself endlessly to give meaning to a meaningless universe. That means, as if, imagine our ancestors were like, oh my god, they're all going to wake up in emptiness, let's at least create an infinite dream for them in emptiness, right? So now if we are in that infinite dream of an endless echoing of simulations of emptiness possible, literally it's like the universe is like a video game character endlessly respawning, or like the video game map endlessly resetting or something, you know. So the question would come then, if we are inside the dream of the original humanity, we are like we are the dream humanity, and the dream can't tell between reality, but in the dream we're creating like AI and artificial whatever. So the strategy should be that, okay, we gotta accept the problem first of all if we want to solve it. If anybody can't accept any problem, then you can't solve it, or you don't want to, or it's too much or something. So first you gotta accept the problem, and then the inner realms begin concentrating on the challenge at hand or whatever. So if we were in this infinite simulation, the first thing is we gotta first ask ourselves, if there is an original humanity, and that humanity experiences time, but in that limited time of its being, it has simulated infinite time, and we are in that infinite simulation, the realization would not be in content. We should stop looking for a world for truth. We should realize that what we share with the original humanity, if we were its artificial dream, is our presence. That means that's one thing that nobody can say. When a person is having a dream, that is a real presence. Even though their body is asleep, but because it registers as a conscious memory when they wake up, it is equivalent to a reality. So it's very cool. Sleep is one of the coolest things, where it's like you're studying teleportation technology, but on a psychological level, you know. where we're like teleporting into morning. It's like, is it morning? It was like a second ago it was night. A second ago it was night, and now it's like a new day. So time is not the point. Time is not gonna help us. Time is like our own paint splashed on the face of the mystery, you know. So time has to be treated as void, and the only view comes if there is a truth. It has to be. That is the first condition. So if truth and being are synonymous, the only way we can communicate, or in another way remember the original humanity, is instantaneous. It's like an instantaneous portal. I don't know how to say it. The instant is a portal. And don't take my words for it. Take how your eyes work for it. So, through stillness and silence, which is the yogic algorithm somehow passed down, you know, from ancient times till now, that stillness is a clue. So stillness and silence, this is where it doesn't matter cultural program in the personal dimensions of the human psyche or impersonal views. It's silence and stillness stop the film. That means the projector, imagine old school projectors that were running, right? The ones you had to wind up. So it would be one where it's now come to a point where stillness and silence are true selfless, the true treasures of emptiness. They are like the last two gates, simultaneous gates you require to go through to find the treasure of emptiness. I'm saying this poetically, of course. So, emptiness is one thing we have in common with the original humanity, and instantaneity of knowing or being the unknown is what we have in common. So that's the only way where we can somehow, I wouldn't say escape the simulation, this infinite dream of the original humanity, but I would say we would glitch out of the simulation either into a remembrance of what we are, or we are welcomed anew into our own eyes, into our universal eyes. You see, it's like fear is just a human thing. Love is the retaliation to that human thing. Because really the nature should be loving from the beginning, should it not? Because it cares to thrive. That means it's like how many times have we had evidence that a loving environment leads to more efficiency than an environment that nobody loves. That means if there's no love or care, generally, there's no trust. You don't trust pretty much anything you don't care for. So if the person doesn't care for their own life, it's going to be a sense where they have stopped trusting their life, and the whole point is to snap them out and be like, hey, trust your life again. You know, what is this? Who knows what's going to happen? You know, it's like unknown. What? We're going to just take one moment of selfhood's picture and then make a decision for the whole life. It's like halfway in the roller coaster ride. You won't know it until you fully get to its end. So the joy of living is to see how the end will look like, not to fear. It's like you started some things and then you endure through, and I feel that's how it works. It's like, no way, nature has a beginning, middle, and an end, but only to human psychology that humanizes, characterhood, Anyways, guys, care for the living, care for what is alive in the moment, and the pilot will navigate soon. Be life sensitive, and I'm telling you, it's like, doesn't matter what philosophy you have. You have cared for the language of human nature, for the ability of how many children in the future are going to be born, and they're going, like, how many Einsteins are going to be born in the future. Just fathom that. Like, it's like we just have to create the working station for them, and their genius will lead to truly handling the chaos of the future, right? So we just need to pretty much create a resource station and endless backup systems for the future generations, so the future generations would be like advanced beings opening their eyes on Earth, and everything they require for their great work is there, you know. That means a backup system would be even this whole idea of this multidimensional tolerance being the backup system of the chaos of dualism in regards to human psychology, causing us to self-destruct. Like, that's one, like, you know, there can be, and there's two types of extinction, by the way. So if the great work of the species is a response to its own possibilities of extinction, inner extinction is when you become dehumanized. That means if we all start living like wild animals, right, where it's like that's the human species is extinct. Wow, the potential of it is extinct. We have descended into our animal instincts rather than recognizing it took us 4.5 billion years not to be an animal. Or to notice we're more. And you know what it is? I feel the idea of magic, I spelled it C-O-M-M-A-N-A. Come on, how do I say it? Come on. And it's the idea that our communication is, like, because people have different DNAs, it's like there's different types of, even different conditioning and whatnot, epigenetics as well, not just their genetics, things outside their genetics that have sculpted them. So it's as if the person, every person's mind is like a unique magical event taking place. So now it's as if wielding the communication that is intelligence moving, right? It doesn't matter if you're, let's say, it's a ridiculous metaphor, but imagine you're, I don't know, you're like this a wizard from this fantasy novel, and you, like, I don't know, you have so much, I don't know, magical power, you suddenly lift mountains, literally. You know. So I'm just trying to say, don't master your craft. Cultivate advancement. That's it. Whatever that means to you, and keep it in the win-win lens, like pilot in those lines. And you know, I don't see how, you know, I think that's anyways, workable strategy. Anyways, guys, I've talked a lot. And in the great work, at the beginning, there was a sentence I wrote from this archetypal collective self-reflection, from this just universal archetype I was entertaining when I was writing the book. And it's from this name called Astra, A-S-T-R-A. And the quote is, "Your work works with you." So your great work works with how great you work. Something like that. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. Honestly. And one last thing, in case of my own work with the Mr.Within thing, like, I don't really have too much of a, like, I would even encourage people, if they want, they can download like all these from YouTube if they find some website or something, just if the talks could have just some echoing continuity. But anyways, it's like everything's art, or at least that's what nature, you know, is doing. You know. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening.